when we dialed back to having a much smaller team and doing less deals, but doing bigger deals, that's where we really fell in love with doing that.
Just making sure that you put the priorities on your calendar and then you hold yourselves accountable.
It's worth every dollar to get around these people because the connections and the speed and things like that is just so helpful for our business. Even putting down 20%, by the time you pencil out that price, the rate, the interest, the taxes, the insurance, all of the goodies that go along with it, HOA, sometimes maintenance and repairs, you don't cash flow. Once you understand the strategies and maybe kind of change things up slightly.
Welcome back, everyone, to the REM podcast. My name is Noah, and today we have
Jenn.
And I'm Joe Delle Fave.
Delle Fave.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, guys. Looking forward to getting to know you guys a little bit more better, get to know your business a little bit better. And yeah, just curious, what were you guys doing before real estate, and then what you guys got you into real estate?
Well, I, followed the traditional path of what we were all supposed to do. Back in the 90s, graduated high school in 99, went off to college to be a teacher. And that's exactly what I did for 8 years. And I taught public school, middle school, high school teacher, English teacher. And it wasn't until 2008, a couple years in, where I met Joe, who's my husband now. But at the time, I owned my own property. I actually had a girlfriend living with me to help the mortgage expense because teacher salary wasn't very great. I was definitely getting in over my head, trying to pay for my master's degree, owning a home, and making not a lot of money just being a public school teacher. So I meet this handsome fella. And he's busy at a car dealership, but had dreams of getting back into real estate because he actually did his first deal in the year 2000.
Yeah, I got a course. This was 25 years ago. My buddy actually bought it on TV. We were all hanging out at his house and he never opened it. It was like on one of those late night commercials. So I saw it. It was like make $3,000 in 30 days. And I was broke. I was like 22 at the time. I was stone cold broke. So I begged him to let me borrow this. And he reluctantly did. But I listened to what the VCR tape said in the book. I went out and did it. My first month, I had a deal under contract and I had like no money. I didn't know what I was doing, but I found a cash buyer. I found an attorney who could do a closing and we ended up doing a double closing and I made almost $13,000 check. It's the biggest check I have ever saw in my life. So that's what got me hook, line, and sinker into real estate. But I had a job at a car dealership and I was moving up to kind of like the corporate ladder there, sold cars, and was in finance. But when I meet Jenn in 2008, when I had my own house, she had hers. We were the accidental landlord where we were going to rent hers out because fell in love, moved in with me. But then we were also finding in 2008, the market was crashing, if you remember, and there was deals like popping up. And we're from Rochester, New York, so upstate New York. And we're finding houses that were nice neighborhoods, great school districts for like 40 grand, 30,000. So we just started scooping them up, doing the Burr method before we even knew what that meant.
Didn't know I had a name or a hashtag.
Yeah, we just found some fixer-uppers. We would model them, rent them out, go to the bank, pull my money out, go find another deal. And, it was working. It was really slow. It wasn't making us a whole lot of money, actually. But then fast forward after we got married and had kids, Jenn walked away from her teaching job. And then in 2016, we had 2 little ones at home. And I was at the bank refinancing out of one of the properties. And my friend who worked there was like, at 10 mortgages, we cut you off. What are you guys going to do after that? And it was like I witnessed a car accident. I was like, I didn't know they'd stop you. I had a good credit score. I had great income. Our debt was low besides these rental houses. So I was kind of shocked. And that's when we dove down the rabbit hole after months and months of research and looking. I was poor my wife. She was driving her nuts with all the stuff I was looking up. But that's when I found out you can buy real estate without using banks, without having huge down payments, without needing a credit check, without needing the appraisals, like all of this stuff. And when I found that out, I looked at her, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the future for what we want to do. So we started getting into that and all of a sudden our business just took right off.
That's awesome. And what does your business look like today?
So we're still buying deals today, fast forward. But what happened was when we learned how to do creative finance, the first deal we did was back in 2017. We had a seller who owned a house outright, inherited it from his grandfather passing, had it rented out to a coworker. Really wasn't making much money. So when he said, hey, I want to sell it, he reached out to us. He was like, hey, this isn't a fixer upper. I don't want any lowball offers from you investors. And I was like, no, I could pay your price if you're open to me doing payments. So he asked what that looked like. And what we did was I bought that house with only $100 down. I didn't come up with 20% down or 10% down or half down, $100 down. We did pay a few thousand in closing costs, put an insurance policy on there. But this was the first house that we bought that was turnkey. Like we didn't need contractors renovating kitchens and bathrooms. And it was actually really nice. And so when we offered it as a rental, we actually changed our strategy of offering it with a lease with the option to buy, like a rent to own. And our renter moved in short time after and gave us $10,000 down to move in. So once we found that deal out, we're like, oh my gosh, because he was so happy we paid his price. No, he didn't even charge us interest. It was a 0% mortgage. We just paid $500 a month flat towards what we owed him. And
That's
so
awesome.
he was, yeah, it was just, once we figured that out and then we got paid to buy it from our renter moving in, giving us such a big check. This is where we're like, okay, like we're going to do this for now on.
We basically doubled our portfolio. In 2020 happened. He walked away from his car dealership job because everything shut down in New York. And I was like, holy cow, like this is, a dream come true. We can now work full time. So we built the team, hired people to work with us. And, through 2020 to 2022, like it was just cranking. Like we were doing deals nationwide. And then we realized that we didn't really want a huge team. We really like kind of keeping it small and really found the pockets where we wanted to hold our properties too. So, we've been able to really dial in because you got to kind of do some things to figure out what you don't want to do too.
Oh, for sure. When it comes to the team right now, what does the team look like? How many people are on the team and how much volume are you doing with that team?
So I have one acquisition manager. I have one virtual assistant. He's actually out in California who works for us. We're able to do a handful of deals every single year from doing that. It's usually like one a month or two, depending on what we're doing. We've already got a decent portfolio, so that's been fantastic. And for us, like I still love to do deals, so that's why we continue to do it. But what we were doing, there were some months we were doing 10 deals in a month. And as fun as that was at times, I'm trying to dispo deals in North Pole, Alaska, in Montana, and all over the country, all over the place, Texas, all over the place. And so from doing that, I realized like keep it small, but keep it all, because I have a lot of friends who have these big, huge wholesaling operations, but man, they have some major expenses. And so they do a lot of revenue, but they don't actually net a whole lot in their pocket because a lot of it goes to their team, marketing, all these back ends, software. So I know a lot of guys and girls out there who are doing a lot of volume and a lot of top line revenue, but bottom line revenue, it's tough. And when you're having all these mouths to feed, we had a team of 12 people at one point. So when you're the last one to get paid because you're paying your whole team, there was some deals I'm looking like, man, they all made more money than we did, right? And it's us putting up the risk and all the money and all those things. So when we dialed back to having a much smaller team, and doing less deals, but doing bigger deals, that's where we really fell in love with doing that. So if the deal doesn't pay us a bunch of money, whether it's a fix and flip or a wholesale, or my favorite is when I'm just buying a house with either seller financing or things like that. Like I don't want to touch them. There's no more $5,000 wholesale deals and things like that. Like it's just not worth the time. You can make it takes the same amount of time to make a $5,000 deal as it does a $50,000 deal.
It's like it takes less time sometimes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh yeah. And you have such more peace of mind for sure. I know a lot of investors that have, everyone gets into the business for the same reason, right? It's time freedom. Most people come for the time freedom and then they end up being like, oh, I'm going to do 100, 200, 300 deals. And then their time freedom's out the window. How do you balance that as far as like a work-life balance?
Well, I think what we really, like you said, we had to take a step back because when we were doing that many deals, we even went and got an office. So there was a point in 2022, 2023 where I'm like kissing him and he's rushing out the door. And then I'm with the kids we homeschool. And I'm like, well, this feels backwards. We got into this to be a family, to spend more time together. And it was just a little bit nutty. So that's where we decided to really shift gears. And then you can do this business remotely, but you got to be really particular about the deals that you're going to do. And so I can't say there's a true balance. I know that we try really hard, and sometimes your effort and energy has to go if you've got a big thing that you're closing, right? Like that, and we're honest with the kids. And then there's other times where like, okay, we're not working, we're going to Disney World, and that's where our focus is. And just making sure that you put the priorities on your calendar and then you hold yourselves accountable. I think that, I could go on and on, working together as husband and wife, how do you separate work and just being married? Like it's a little bit crazy at times. So you've got to make it effort, you've got to go on date nights and you got to catch each other. If you start talking about deals and sellers and, the team, and be like, okay, like let's table that. We'll talk about it tomorrow, because you care about it, but also like you gotta go have fun.
Yeah, we're both guilty of it too.
Yeah, definitely hard not to, for sure.
Yeah,
because we'll be on a date night and like one of us will bring it up and it whirlwinds into this whole conversation. Like, how do we even get here? Like, stop. Like, it's after hours. But when we had a much bigger team, we're doing deals. There were some times where a seller, because they might have been in the West Coast, we're on the East Coast, and my acquisitionist is talking to me at 10:30 at night. Meanwhile, I'm trying to get in bed. Like, hey, should I write this deal up? And that stuff's happening. And I found myself in more meetings now than I ever was, even though our team was all remote around the world, around the country here too. But it was just like acquisition meeting, disposition meeting, TC meeting, training.
meetinged out.
It got to the point where like you mentioned, we built this to have the lifestyle that we wanted to, because from living in upstate New York, when we do this full time, we moved to Florida almost, 3.5 years ago. And we thought we couldn't do this till like we were super old and retired and things like that. But when I walked away from my job in my young 40s, we could go travel anywhere. We could be anywhere. So this is where I loved it, because like this summer we took a month off, went through the whole East Coast up to New York, Boston, a bunch of different cities, towns, Charleston, South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia. And to us, your kids are only young once, and you don't have that much time with them. 18 summers, 18, holidays and things like that. So we really want to make the most of it.
Want to get motivated sellers that nobody knows about? Introducing 10X TV. If you want to create credibility in your market, find deals that nobody else knows about, and crush your competition, you need to check into TV commercials. It is the new buzz in the real estate investing industry since we introduced it several years ago. I've been using TV commercials myself for the last 12 years and it's absolutely crushed it. So if you want to learn how to get on TV and to do something that little to no people are doing right now, go to claimmymarket.com. Again, that's claimmymarket.com. We usually only work with 2 investors per market, so if you're interested, reach out to us and book a call to see if you can claim your market before anybody else does. Now back to the show.
When you put it that way, it definitely puts it in perspective for sure. But I definitely think that's probably 80% of New Yorkers' retirement plans is to move to Florida. So you definitely beat them to it for sure. But I guess I'm curious, what did your guys' life look like before hopping into real estate investing? As far as day to day, as far as, your relationship, working not with each other to working together, what did that all kind of look like?
Yeah, so we met, I feel like, a little bit later. I was 26,
Yep.
You were 30. So I'm well established in my teaching career. I literally was like, I'm not going to date anybody. I got 3 major grad classes to get. I got to get my master's degree. I don't have time. And then, of course, right, the universe is like, you will make time because the right one is showing up at your door. And so you finally meet someone that you want to spend all this time with. And that was the one thing like we couldn't make more of. And so it was super frustrating. I'd get up early some mornings at like 4:30, 5 o'clock on a snowy Tuesday to drive an hour and a half into work, white knuckle because it's like crazy weather out there. And he would be sleeping, and then I'd work all day. I'd come home at like 4, 5 o'clock. He'd be working until 9. So now I'm trying to stay awake, to make him dinner, spend a little time. And we were like, is this it? Like a whole couple days goes by and we barely see each other. Like, this is what people like, this is life, right? Like, and so we started really having those questions. And he's like, well, being the visionary that he is, if we were to buy real estate and have a rental portfolio, work for ourselves, there's this whole other life out there, because it was a rat race. There were plenty of days that, and then we have kids, and now the kids don't really see him that much unless I drive up to the dealership. So it was a typical, it wasn't even 9 to 5. It was like 8 to 9 most nights.
Well, and I had to work Saturdays.
Yeah,
So
weekends.
the only day that we were all together, either myself and Jen, or all of us when we started having kids, was just Sunday. That was the only day that all 4 of us were ever just together. And so we really knew that there was something more to life than just this. And I didn't want to work till I was 90 at a car dealership, although the pay was fantastic. I had a beautiful house, beautiful neighborhood, but I knew that you got to start your side hustle while you already have a good income, while you could already have build some systems in place, build a pipeline of deals and some flow, and start working on your system. So it could give you the ability to have more options. And the option was, when COVID happened, I could either go back to work when the curve flattened. Remember how they told everybody that we're waiting a couple weeks for the curve? But Jen was like, you're not going back. Like, we've been fantasizing about doing this full time. Like, now's the time. So we started doing this in the beginning of global pandemic. And when we brought on a couple interns, and we went from doing a deal every year to doing like a deal every month, then we brought on another 2, and then now we're doing multiple deals every month. That's when we're like, holy cow, like, this is exciting. And then we're from Rochester, we're doing deals, and Buffalo, New York, we're doing deals, and then found a deal in North Pole, Alaska. Then we're doing deals in Florida. And I'm like, well, if I could dispo a deal in North Pole, Alaska in 3 days, like, a great deal is a great deal. We could do them everywhere. So then we tried doing nationwide, which don't recommend doing that. It's absolutely, you're comping houses in the middle of the desert. Like,
but I love that
stuff.
you asked that question, because if you do go back to 2008 when we first met, and he'd done the one deal and then he stopped for 8 years. And then when I hadn't even met him yet, I got this email and he was like, yeah, I want to, fix up a house. And I was like, well, I have an old house. You help me with mine, right? And then it was one property at a time. And then the one eventually turned into 5. And then the 5 was like, okay, like, what are we going to do now? Which then we got into the creative and then the lease option. And that was when I finally really jumped on board, because I was like, okay, like this is turning into like more than you can handle on the spare time that you have. So I started really taking a seat in the business, finding our rent to own buyers. And, we hired a coach is when everything really changed too. It was like, we took it super seriously, and it became like no Netflix and chill. We were not going out with like friends at the bar. Not that we were anyway, but like anytime we did have was super strategic. So with like early mornings, he's studying and reaching out to sellers, and on his lunch break, he's calling people. And then after work, it maybe go to a home and get a contract signed. And so it's making the time, not saying I don't have the time, was really important. So that when COVID did happen and we had 10 rental properties, we were like good to go.
That's awesome. When it comes to the coach aspect, I love that you brought that up. I mean, everyone always thinks, especially entrepreneurs, like, oh, we got this. We can do it on our own. We don't need anyone. When you look at sports, everyone has a coach, no matter what it is. If it's an individual sport, I mean, golf, you have a golf coach. Or if you're gymnastic, you have a gymnastics coach. If you're football, you're on a football team, you have a coach. When it comes to entrepreneurship and investing specifically, how important do you think finding the right coach was to your business?
It was essential, but like you've got to be ready for it, because I see so many people signing up hoping that the coach is going to fix it or do it for them. But that's just like a part of it. Like that person can help you, guide you, answer questions as you're taking the messy, massive action along the way. But they're of no use if you're not going to put in the work. And I know for a fact, every time we've paid money to a coach, maybe they weren't like the perfect person, but man, we learned so much. And I've never wasted $1 on a mentor, a mastermind, or any sort of service that I was paying for a value to like take the easy button, right? Like they already made some mistakes and now they're pouring into you so that you don't make them, or like just to have them on hand of like, I got this situation popping up. Like what are the next steps I should have? So I just think like for us, it took him a couple of times. Our coach was Tony. He would hop on a seller call and Joe would be like, oh, that's all he's got to say. And like, so like once he heard it a couple of times, like he was off to the races and doing it himself. So just those little steps along the way can make such a huge difference, instead of like wading in the water, like just kind of like, I don't know, like, will this work? Will it not? And then you kind of like second guess yourself and you never take the action. I think that's the worst.
Well, and I think guys have an issue. We have an ego, right? Like there's nobody smarter or better than me. And you just got to lose your ego because there's always somebody better, smarter than you at whatever task. So
I think that can happen.
Like get in the right rooms and learn from these people. And if you've got to pay to be around them, like high level top earners, like they're not just going to give you all the info for free, not on a consistent basis where you're going to need it like a one and done. That's a different story. But like continuous, help in consulting is huge. And then I think the second thing is it's like what Jenn said, put in the work, because like they could give you the recipe, but if you don't do it. So for me, it was like, just show me what to do, get the heck out of my way. Let me go do it. And then be there when I have a question. So we saw the value in that. So we've been with so many of the best coaches around the planet. We even have one now. We are in a high level mastermind that we meet a few times a year from people all over the world. And there's some heavy hitters in the group. So we pay, I mean, the mastermind alone costs almost as much as that first house that we did. So, but it's worth every dollar to get around these people because the connections and the speed and things like that has just been so helpful for our business.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, masterminds alone, I mean, we're in, well, depending on what company, but for, some of our companies, we're in 4 or 5 masterminds. I travel to all of them. So I'm at, a mastermind probably 2 to 3 times a month, and the knowledge you get, the people that you meet, I mean, even as simple as like, hey, I'm having a problem in my business. And then you hear 5 or 10 other people have that same problem. And it's more of just collectively finding an answer versus, or maybe someone already found the answer, right? So definitely a huge thing. What do you think the biggest challenge is right now in real estate or in your business?
Well, that's 2 different questions. I think the biggest challenge right now with real estate is, I mean, it's situational, right? Because I'll give you an example. Like we do business in multiple markets right now. The Florida market is definitely slowed down. Inventory is spiking up. Really, there's not a lot of properties selling. There's still a lot, but not like it was. And the challenge is because these interest rates are so high, you're still paying 6-7%. And so it's impossible to do a deal where you're going to either do a BRRRR or buy a deal, even putting down 20%. By the time you pencil out that price, the rate, the interest, the taxes, the insurance, all of the goodies that go along with it, HOA, sometimes maintenance and repairs, you don't cash flow. I mean, I've got friends that are investors that said they haven't been able to buy a rental in 2-3 years. And so here it's really diving into a lot of these creative deals because like we just helped one of our clients in our coaching group lock up a deal in Venice, Florida, where the seller's already moved to Vegas. House is turnkey, beautiful house, beautiful neighborhood. They tried listing it at $455 a year ago, didn't sell. Now it's been vacant. Tried listing it with an investor who was going to do a novation, didn't sell. So when our client reached out and got me on the phone, we negotiated for a $317 price. He's got a 2.25% interest rate on his mortgage. So, and they only need $2,000 down to do the deal. So $2,000 down, they're taking over the existing mortgage, not assuming it. They're buying the property, but the loan stays in the seller's name. And now our client gets it at a 2.25 rate. So it's the challenges, if you're an investor waiting for rates to drop, like that's not a strategy that's going to be working because it's not going to get down to these rates. But once you understand the strategies and maybe kind of change things up slightly, there's a lot of these motivated sellers out there right now. And the traditional way of putting on the market, it's been a challenge. So I think with having this extra strategy, it's been more people are saying yes now than it's been crazy. On the flip side, if you're wholesaling or fix and flipping, even worse, that's a big challenge. I mean, you're buying this house, you're raising all this capital, you're hiring contractors. There's a lot of risk that goes into that, pulling permits, like doing all this work to list it. It might be months before they sell and you're having all these carrying costs. So for us, I love buying these, accumulating these cash flowing deals where I got super low rates, no huge down payments. Meantime, if I'm going to do a deal, it's a fixer upper. I want to wholesale that more than I want to do a 6-month fix and flip. So I promised my wife, even though we got one going on right now, we're doing a bunch of other wholesales.
You keep telling me no more fix and flips, Noah, but here we are fixing and flipping.
But that one's in New York.
It was a great deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy great deal for the house.
That's awesome. When it comes to creative financing, the only thing that I get questions about all the time, which it takes the right person, right? I mean, if someone has that 2 point whatever percent, but then they need it off their credit for the next house they want to get, or whatever the case may be, how do you handle that, or how do you get around that, if there is a way to get around that?
Yeah, there's definitely a way, because we have that happen all the time. Sometimes that seller needs to buy a property. Sometimes they've already bought it, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. We don't have to worry about anything there. Sometimes they're going to plan on buying it a few years down the road. And if that's the case, the way that we do the paperwork, it shows our incoming payment help washing out their debt so it doesn't goof up their DTI or their debt to income. So most of the time I just say, hey, if you're going to go buy a house, get me in touch with your mortgage person. I'll forward them all the docs showing that we bought it. There's a new note created showing that we're making the payment, and we'll actually show the payments coming out of our account. So now it doesn't hurt them trying to buy another property. And we bought a lot of houses this way, and this happens all of the time. So that's been a really easy way, just making sure you cross every T and dot the I. And you want to do it that way because they're going to want to buy a house eventually or something will happen. And so we just keep the docs close by, and when they need it, we just send it right to them.
Awesome. What do you think the most common misconception is about what you're offering?
As far as like a creative finance deal?
To a seller or to like someone who wants to, as an investor?
I would say maybe both, or, two questions.
Well, I see a lot of investors who are like, hey, I want to learn how to do this. And they think they need to offer half down or something crazy, these huge down payments. And I mean, to be quite honest with you, we typically buy with no money down. $100, a couple $1,000. Like we did one in New Smyrna Beach, which is the other side of Florida. The house was built in 2022. So it's a relatively new house. We did this deal last year. We gave him 10 grand down because they were actually moving to Texas. His job transferred him to Texas. His wife was still back in Florida. They already bought the new house. He's like, we just can't swing 2 payments. We're struggling right now. And so when we looked at the house, turnkey, beautiful house, new development. And so he's like, once we negotiated the deal, he's like, just give me 10 grand down and you could have it. So once we did that and we paid the closing costs, we had a turnkey house in Florida with a 4% rate with only 10 grand down. It's the misconception is, it doesn't work in my area. And if you believe that, you're right, although it works everywhere. So you got to remember it does work everywhere. There's motivated sellers all around the country. You don't have to offer them these crazy terms. You just got to get great at asking the seller really good questions and have them make you the offer. And when the seller makes you the offer, now you're either going to accept it, decline it, or counter offer. It's pretty simple. But usually newbie investors or, negotiators, they're like telling the seller what they're willing to do. And you'd be surprised how many sellers are just like, I've got the guy with the 2.25 rate. He bought the house 4 years ago. So he owes 26 more years left on the mortgage. So I said, I'll give you your 2 grand down and we're just going to take over that payment for the next 26 years because the true value is that 2.25 rate. And that's why we're wanting to buy it. So just being very transparent with the seller. Don't hide. Don't beat around the bush. Be very crystal clear. Ask good questions. Do good deals.
When it comes to the acquisition role, I know a lot of acquisition people like to throw a number out there or kind of like what you're talking about, like tell them what we will give you. When you hear an offer that's good enough or one that you can do, do you always or usually try and go lower and see what they'll take, or do you usually give them what they're asking?
Well, that's a great question. So the neat thing about creative finance, there's 4 different levers. There's 4 different negotiating points. With it's a cash sale, there's only one, and that's the price. That's the only thing that matters in a cash deal is the price. With a creative finance deal, where I'm buying a property with seller financing, the first thing I look at is my down payment. Can I get into this deal with $100 down and some closing costs, right? The second thing is what's my monthly payment? Can I cash flow? And then the third thing is my term length. Like some of these sellers might want to get paid off in 1 year. I don't like that. I want somebody who's going to give me 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and there's many that do. But then the last thing I focus on, which is the price, which to the seller, that's usually the most important thing. And out of all 4, that's my least important. So I'll give you an example. If it's a $400,000 home and they want $400,000 for it, but they're going to sell me the deal with no money down, they're not going to charge me any interest, give me a super low payment for the next 30 years, what do I care? And it's a turnkey house, I don't have to get a contractor involved, I'll pay $400,000. And it leaves a lot of these other investors scratching their head saying, how could you pay $400,000? Now, don't get me wrong, I always want a deal, but the deal could be built on the terms, doesn't always have to be on the price. So when we do some of these creative deals, we're creating a win for the seller, a win for us as the buyer, to where we both walk away feeling amazing. And I could pay top dollar and don't have to lowball them. And nobody's going to take a super lowball in a turnkey, beautiful house. They want a good buck for it. And I don't blame them. I would too. So the fact that we can do that now because of this strategy, this is what changed the game for us. Because when we were first only dealing with junkers, the fixer-uppers, if I couldn't get a deal at 50 cents on the dollar or better, I wasn't buying it. So it took a little bit of a mindset change for me. A seller wants $400,000 and I'm about to pay it. Like, I'll be honest with you, it kind of freaked me out. But then when I'm like, well, okay, only $100 down and they're not charging me interest, or I have a 2.25 interest rate, which I could definitely take those all day long, and they're giving me super long terms, sure, I'll pay your price. And I'll still try to get a little bit wiggle on it too. And I usually do.
Yeah, that's awesome. What mistakes do you often see investors make in today's age in real estate?
Well, I think it's the information overload. So obviously there's a lot of podcasts, which are great. Love that we're on one right now, but you can't let yourself just get consumed in the research mode and following the YouTubes and the videos and then, or even signing up for courses, right? And you're just like learning. I think that it really does come down to like, you're going to learn best when you actually go do the deal. So education is important, but you need to actually like be doing the things that you're learning about. And then, just not doing a bad deal. So knowing the real difference between what's a good deal, what's a bad deal, like your numbers truly matter. So if you don't know the area that you're, trying to buy a house in, like learn the area, because, where we're from in upstate New York, like there's a reason why some of those houses are super cheap down in Rochester, and I've seen some people like really lose a lot of money. I know there was a seller reached out last year, was it? And we were trying to help her, but what she bought it for, it just made no sense. And like, you feel bad, but like, you don't know what you don't know. Like you could really get yourself in a jam. And unfortunately lessons, will teach you a lot. And it's, you just can't quit. You got to keep going and know that, if you're around the right people, they can help you out in situations like that sometimes, but also like, just don't go do a deal to do a deal. I feel like a lot of people are just trying to, get another door, but like stop, look at everything and make sure that you really, especially if you're taking over a seller's mortgage payment, like don't promise that you're going to make that every month. It can't. So make sure that you've got the capital, the know-how, like exit strategies, and cover all your bases because it's really important.
Well, and I know the deal you're talking about because she was in Colorado. She bought a 7-unit in the city of Rochester, way overpaid, like $150,000 overpaid for it. Got terrible tenants, place got trashed. And so she was open to doing a deal with us with seller financing with only $5,000 down. We could take over the property, take over her payments. And when I penciled the deal, I'm like, my gosh, she just got hosed. So sometimes you just need help analyzing a deal, because I know for me, it was a lot of times like I'll pick up the phone, I'll talk to people, I'll message people, but like, how do I know if it's a great deal or if this is a deal I should run from? So I think the biggest mistake is just trying to learn as you go, learn it on your own. That's the most expensive way to do it. Because if you're just hoping a YouTube video is going to give you all the behind the scenes, the small little details, and you don't have anybody to turn to who's already blazed that trail, that's where I think a lot of people fail. Because I see a lot of these deals on the internet, all these Facebook Facebook groups. And I'm like, my gosh, who would the heck would do that deal? That is absolutely horrible. The investor wants an $80,000 assignment fee. The deal has, they want $1 million down. There's negative cash flow. It's like the worst deal ever. I'm like, why would anybody in their right mind buy the deal? And then you still see it surfing around months and months later. Meanwhile, the seller hopes they have it sold and this investor has no clue what they're doing. So I feel like it's, I don't like having industries being over-regulated, but I feel like the real estate business in general for investors needs to have something in place to get some of these knuckleheads, because you're messing with somebody's house. This is the biggest investment they're going to make their whole life, these people. And you have a lot of amateurs in this business just trying to figure it out as they go by watching YouTube videos, which, don't get me wrong, everybody starts somewhere. But if you're going to do this serious, you got to get around the right people who make sure you can cross every T, dot the I. Do it professionally. This is not a get rich quick overnight.
I was just going to say, I think that's honestly one of the biggest struggles too, is like Instagram makes it look like tomorrow you can have a Lambo. And like, that's just not reality. Wealth is built over time, and it doesn't even like all of a sudden you're going to wake up and be like, oh, like what's your net worth? Like once you start adding all your properties together, it's like not an overnight thing. So there are going to be like maybe some tears, because I've definitely had a few, or some frustrations, but overall it just takes time and you got to put in the work.
And I think a one, especially newbies, they just want to get their first deal done. And I heard this the other day, actually, and it was very eye-opening. It was a fellow investor mentioned like the first deal has to be like positive. Like you have to make money off the first deal, and you have to pick the first deal very wisely, because a lot of people call themselves investors, and then there's investors, right? And I think the thing that washes so many newbies out is they do a deal, they don't make money, or they lose a lot, and they're like, oh, it doesn't work. Or to your point, they're like, oh, well, I didn't get my Lambo 24 hours after I started. It doesn't work. So I definitely agree with that, like wholeheartedly. I think that's definitely the biggest part, is picking the deals. And even going back to what you said earlier, is like finding good deals and doing less good deals than people that are doing 300 deals a year, but they might be only making $5,000 a deal. And then when you factor in, all the people you have to pay and everything, it's kind of a wash at that point. So definitely agree with you there 100%.
Well, I mean, it's great to say you make $1 million, but if you had to spend $1 million to make it, then you're flat.
And you don't know it, like until you're in the industry and you start really getting to know people and you really see things, like, because otherwise everything on Instagram looks like people just trip on a beach and make a ton of money.
Oh, they got the Rolexes on, they got the Lambos, and you don't know they're defaulting on their marketing, or they're defaulting on this. And it's like, there's so many people that, you see them as the top dog and they can't pay their marketing expense, or they can't pay their team, or, it's crazy for sure. Yeah. This industry is definitely not always as it seems, for sure.
Well, I feel like once again, everybody shares their highlights and their wins, but they want to see your true self. So this is why we share so much on our social media, because there's times where in this business, you do anything long enough and you're going to get kicked around a little bit. And so it's being just transparent. We have a lot of good deals. We've had some bad stuff happen too. I mean, we've had houses catch on fire, squatters, evictions, bug infestations on a couple of houses. We bought a meth lab, didn't know it was a meth lab until it was surrounded by the SWAT team. We could spend a whole other podcast on just all of the wild stuff. We had a lady who stole some guy's house, Florida, wild stuff, buddy. Stole the guy's house and was going to do a deal with us. And then come to find out she did a quick claim deed, falsified everything. The guy didn't even know his house got broken into, didn't know that the house was deeded to her. He's just some guy up north, had a house in Florida. So
was not dead. In fact,
he wasn't dead when she told us that he was dead. So, I'm on the phone with the sheriffs. I'm like, wait, he's not dead? Because we have this deal under contract and we're about to close on this.
That's crazy. I could believe the meth lab in Florida for sure. That
was a New York meth lab. That was a New York meth lab.
Oh, wow. That makes sense too, actually.
Yep, it absolutely does.
Yeah, that was one of those properties where like, let's just list it when we got all done. And, we had, glad to see that one go. And I think we just celebrated our 4th anniversary 4 years ago. We had clean out in Watertown, New York. And we got a call from the sheriff office that day too, that the people we hired to clean out dumped all of the stuff into a cemetery. I don't know why. So this
was like a reputable company. And so I get a call from our seller freaking out because she's like, I'm at a cemetery right now and there's a huge pile of all of my stuff here. And I'm with the state trooper, because the trooper went through this huge pile, found papers with her name on it, called her. And was like, why are you dumping all your stuff? Lady's like, I sold the house. Well, then I'm on the phone with the state troopers and I'm like, well, I hired this company to do it. Professional company, like not like some like dude with a trailer, but instead of actually getting a dumpster, their master plan was just dump it at a cemetery.
Like what?
Yeah, so that was just a Sunday morning, bud. I mean, that's just, you do this business long enough, and
But you got to share that, right? Because like we can laugh now, but there was definitely like I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like what's
Yeah,
happening?" I'm shaking.
you weren't laughing then. No, you weren't laughing
No.
then for
Oh
sure.
man,
no.
yeah.
I love Watertown though. It's a good TV market actually. It's a really good market. Yeah, it's a good market.
We crush it. That military base up there.
Yeah.
We do really well. Actually, Jen just said we should buy more houses up there. 'cause
Little town of Ogdensburg, New York. I
things
mean,
cash flow,
cash
buddy.
cow, and the
Oh,
tenant
yeah.
pays on time, and
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Now we're telling secrets on your podcast.
I know. So you could. We're abundance mindset, everybody. There's enough people out there to help. There's too many deals. We can't do them all, but yeah, reach out if you do find anything up there you don't want.
That's awesome. Fair enough. Well, let's say you were to start from scratch today. What would you focus on first?
I would be posting in Facebook groups that I buy houses. We actually have a way that we're generating off-market leads for free, so I don't have any money. I could target anywhere in the country. So if I want to target, let's just say Kansas City, Missouri, or Kansas City, Kansas, either way, it doesn't matter. I could join groups in Kansas, make my posts in these groups. I'm targeting incoming leads for free without spending a dime, message a bunch of them, weed out the tire kickers and the time wasters, only pick up the phone with the very best, which is probably 2 out of every 10, right? So if I generate 10, 20, 30, 50 leads, I'm only have to talk to the phone maybe a dozen, and that's where your deals will come from. And I'm either offering cash on the junkers, which I'm going to wholesale them, or those turnkey houses, I'm going to offer every one of those with seller financing. The thing is, the key is only work with motivated sellers. So we ask some questions to weed out those unmotivated sellers quick. And when you could only work with the most motivated leads and you're getting those for free, it's like you'll get a deal. You just got to not give up.
Right. Who do you think has been the biggest influence on you guys and your business?
I gotta say, for me, it was Ron LeGrand.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, definitely the OG terms, creative real estate here.
Yeah, because I got Ron's course. My friend did 25 years ago, and then when it was 2016, when I learned we're going to cut off by banks. Now Ron didn't have VCR tapes anymore, but he had a YouTube channel. So I watched some of his YouTube stuff. He's like late 70s now, got out of Jacksonville, Florida. One of the godfathers of doing this stuff. He's been doing it since the early 80s, like before my wife was born.
Literally the year I was born. Okay.
Okay.
44 years. He's been
yeah, he's been doing it forever. So when we hired his team to be our first coach, that's when things started once again to really kick off. So now that we're in the same mastermind with him, it's just completely awesome because you get to see him and talk to him. And there's so many others, but he's been one of the biggest because I didn't know you could buy real estate this way. If it wasn't for him, I don't know when I would have figured this out. Definitely would not have figured it out on my own, but here was somebody's already doing it for decades. So.
Gives so much. Like I remember, the content, like this guy's voice was everywhere. It was in the morning while he's getting ready in the shower and getting dressed for the day. Anywhere he's driving in the car, every date night we went on, there was no more, fun date night music. It was Ron's voice, talking away about how to buy and how to sell. And I just think about like the knowledge too, like even in 2020 where we decided to take this full time and Ron's doing these like day long, like free workshops online. Like we're taking advantage of that and listening and asking questions. And we're still, to this day, like I said, like we're always learning. And I feel like you will never be a true master at anything until you've done it. I don't know how many hours it is or whatever, but like there's always, especially with real estate, things are always changing. So, like just know who you're listening to and really vet the source, make sure they've been doing it long enough to really see the markets changing and the cycles that do happen, because Ron's seen a lot and he's very upfront about it and what to do and what not to do. And I think he does care, you could really hear, he comes off a little bit gruff at times, but he has such a big heart.
He's old school, buddy.
He definitely is. That's for sure. Well, where can people connect with you? Where can people find you?
I definitely am an Instagram girly. So Jenn Delle Fave, JennDellefave.
Joseph Delle Fave on Facebook, same thing with Instagram. And we do our free workshops all the time where we're just sharing like how we're getting leads and all of these things too, right in our Facebook group. Creative Finance Playbook. So if you join our Facebook group or go to that.com, Creative Finance Playbook, you get the link. But we host these trainings which is just showing like how to get leads. What do these deals look like? We did one last month. I did a live seller call during the training, just called the lady up and she was like, yes, let's go ahead and do the deal because she's got a house. It's not selling. Beautiful house close to us in Florida. She's even tried listing it for rent. She's moving and she's like, it's not selling, it's not renting, but the payment's low. The deal pencils out. So we just like to show people how it's done. Because if I didn't get Ron's course for free, I was so broke 25 years ago. I don't know if I'd even be doing right now. I wouldn't be on this podcast with her, with you. That's for sure. So it's changed my life. And there's more of these sellers out there that need help than there are people like us looking for that right now. So sharing what's working. And I'll tell you what, you could make a lot of these deals and build wealth over time. And this is the best way to buy real estate by far.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and appreciate you guys' time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Thank you guys all for watching, and we'll see you next time.